Just don't tell a single soul that you have herpes and still go date. That was the worst piece of advice I ever received from a friend of mine. And at the beginning, I believed it. I thought it was the best option for me. I thought that I could bypass rejection and bypass judgment and basically just avoid ever facing my diagnosis and constantly living in a state of denial, or at least a state where there's enough distance between my diagnosis that I never have to think about it. And it got me thinking a lot about like the delayed gratification thing and how it relates to a herpes diagnosis. You see, a lot of us, we just think either we were wrong, so I'm not going to disclose to the next person, but that's like punishing someone else who doesn't deserve it. Or, you know, if I just don't tell anybody, maybe I can get by without ever passing it. And that could be true. You can go your whole life never passing it. And whether you disclose or not, kind of a moral question. But for me, it begs the question of like, what discomfort do you want to live with? Do you want to live with the discomfort of a potential rejection? A quick thing that you're honestly going to forget about in weeks, definitely months, hopefully hours? Or do you want to live with the discomfort of getting to know someone, sleeping with them, or worse off, getting into a full-on relationship or a marriage with the secret herpes status that you never told them about? Now, you can play your odds and never give anybody herpes and maybe scoot on by through life keeping this entirely a secret. But what if you give it to someone and you didn't even tell them, and this is like your husband or your wife or something? It's going to be a little bit of an awkward conversation, and I know from past experience from coaching clients who reached out to me, it's a bit of an awkward conversation and a bit harder to buy back someone's trust when you've already slept with them and not told them. So pick your discomfort. Now, the reason this was the worst piece of advice is because it's going to slowly mold the way that you see yourself, the way that you see your diagnosis, and the way that you approach your life. I truly believe that the longer you go down the wrong path, the harder it is to kind of like unwind and get back to the right path. If you want a quick 3-step process to overcome your diagnosis, first link in the description. It's how I help my coaching clients. But I do think that if you can just get a handle on the right track from the get-go, whether that's when you come across my videos or whether it's when you're newly diagnosed, you're going to have an easier time. And you don't want to go down the path where you reinforce that you have to hide this, where you can't tell someone. And one of the best ways to identify where you're struggling when it comes to your diagnosis is just sort of like reverse engineer everything. So ask yourself why. So you get diagnosed and you don't want to tell anybody. And you ask yourself when you do some journaling, why don't you want to tell anybody? And just go down back to like whatever it was, Socratic questioning. You know, I don't want to tell anybody because I might get rejected. Well, if they're going to reject you for herpes respectfully, that is a risk that we have to essentially live with compared to the guilt of not telling them. If they're ignorant or judgmental, it's a great way to filter people out from the get-go. This is actually an upside to telling someone you have herpes. It also allows you to gauge their sexual health compatibility. Maybe they have something to share themselves. Maybe they've never gotten tested themselves and it's honestly saving you from getting something from them. And it's also going to allow you to see how someone reacts in a vulnerable situation. Are they empathetic? Are they disrespectful? Do they have their own biases towards herpes? And allowing yourself to get into a state where telling someone becomes the norm is only going to serve you long term. So maybe it is about rejection, or maybe it's about judgment. Now, if it's about judgment, I don't want to hear someone's reaction. The best thing I would suggest is to ask yourself what it means to have herpes. What meaning are you putting onto your diagnosis? At the beginning, of course, I was sad and depressed and confused, and maybe it means that I made a mistake or that it's a moral failing or I slept around. None of that was true. And I knew that holding on to, I guess, society's truth about me when it doesn't make sense with what my truth, your truth, bro, it's a waste of time and it's only going to derail me. So I decided to say, well, what does it mean to have herpes? Can I be judged for this? If I tell someone, is what they're saying to me true? Or is it whatever, I guess, biased opinion of herpes that they've bought into themselves? So you risk rejection, and that's okay. That's life. That's dating in general. You can be rejected for something else. Herpes could be a good filter. And you can't really be judged unless you judge yourself. So write those things down. And then, I guess, understanding how to have the conversation would be the next topic of why you don't want to tell someone, because I don't know how to tell them or I don't know what to say. And that's why I urge you that once you have that knowledge base and you've detached from the stigma and you've built back your confidence, disclosure is, it's never going to be, a piece of cake, but it's effortless once you have the right energy. And the right energy is built through those two initial steps. And then you can go into just dating confidently, dating comfortably, disclosing your status with ease. And if you're someone who has for years said, I'm not going to tell anybody, I don't want to think about it, every single day you're reinforcing that that's who you are. Someone that has to live in secrecy and has to live in shame. When in reality, the day that you stop identifying with that version of yourself and you step into a version of yourself tomorrow, today, right now, that can thrive, that can disclose, that can be immune to judgment because we're no longer judging ourselves, that's when you actually are on the right path. If you do want some help, first link in the description. See you in the next video.